All right, guys, so the earlier video we walked through and I showed you what I'm gonna prep and then pack in the house before I start taping. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a couple cups of water here, put in the pan. And I saved the garage to last. We've already packed the inside of the house. So I saved the garage because it's pretty rough. I mean, this stuff is a lot different than your regular quick set. It's not, it's definitely, if you haven't used it before, make sure you play with it a little bit, because you're gonna find that this mud is super, super hard. It's something I use actually on plaster a lot, and plaster repairs. Now, I will tell you one thing, it doesn't stick to regular mud. If you put this over like a +3 or a I don't know, Proform lightweight muds, it doesn't bond to it very well at all. It does bond it bonds very well to drywall that's cut. So that's just my experience with it. I've been using this stuff for a long time. No, I mixed up quite a bit because there's quite a bit of breaks here in this garage that you guys saw earlier, and you know, this is kind of the final step right before you start putting tape on the flats and the butts. I mean, the system I do is I'll go through and on each room, you know, I get to a ceiling, I'll tape all the flats out. I mean, all the butts out, the butts first, and then I'll come back and tape all the flats. Now you want to make sure you get this stuff mixed up good. I made more than I usually do. But I'm going to show you some things you don't want to do with this mud. Let me add a little bit more here. I want it kind of on the thick side, not too thin. Because one, it doesn't want to fall out of the breaks if you end up, you know, having a big spot. You want it to fill in there and be flat. So it's a heavier mud for sure. You're gonna know it as soon as you mix it up. Now, what we're doing is you basically just want to fill things up. Now it's a little chunky, I'm not too worried about it. But you see like this, you want to actually put the mud and pack it in there. Now see, you can stripe it, but you still want to make sure you get it in that crack. And don't make it any wider than you're going to be taping. Now see, I'll show you something here. Let me see if I can find one that's going to be a little bit bigger. What you don't want to do. You see this right here? Now I know this is going to shrink back in. But you see how it's bulging out like that, and you got that little edge? Do not leave this edge, because this stuff you cannot sand at all. You want to make sure that's flat. It'll shrink up a little bit for you, but you want to make sure that's flat. Now we'll tape this later with regular tape. But any gaps, you see, I'll stripe them like this. And then I'll go through and push it in there. I want this thing sealed. Now, you see this big break down here in the bottom? You want to make sure all the loose drywall is gone. Now when you pack this is something, you know, they're not going to trim the garage out, I don't expect. But you want to make sure it's flat and recessed a little bit if you can get it, so it's not bulging out. This stuff bulges and it doesn't come, if it bulges too much, it doesn't come back. It'll shrink a little bit, but it's not pulling back too far. see, even on the butt joints, if there's a gap on the butt joints, I'm pushing it in there. Now, I saved this. I want you to zoom in here. A lot of people don't catch stuff like this. Now, these are actually dents, but you're gonna wanna dig these out, tear this paper out, get that loose paper out of there. Because if you don't, and you tape over that, what you're gonna have is a problem. You're gonna end up finishing this butt joint. It's gonna have it'll look like blisters underneath the finish. Now see, I'll make sure that I coat this a little bit. And there we have it. Now see, this is a pretty good gap right here. And I'm gonna go all the way up it. This will prevent cracking for sure in these butt joints. Now see, I'm looking for everything, any little tear, any little thing that could bubble out underneath the tape after it's taped. Hold on, I missed the spot. Wait, let me go all the way down this one. Loose paper, you want to get as much of it off as you can. Now this butt joint, the hangers use the back side of their knife to cut this side of the board. They cut the face of the board, or the back maybe, and then came up and, I guess they cut the back, broke it, and then went and just ran their knife up the back side of the board. Now, this paper will definitely push your tape out. And you want to make sure you get as much of it off as you can. Because if you don't, you're going to have the center of your tape's going to come out. And instead of being an easy butt joint to finish, it's going to be bulged out and you're going to be fighting to make it flat. Now, even flats that are a little bit like this, see? Whether you're taping by hand, bazooka, banjo, doesn't matter. When you put mud on that, a lot of times the green lids or the all-purposes and the all-purposes will push the tape out in the center. Experienced finishers know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a lot of prep work to a house. You know, sometimes the hangers are really, really good. Sometimes they rush through. It all depends on who the hangers are and how much they really care. Every house though, no matter how long, you know, I've been doing this for many, many, many years. And almost 27 years now. And I have yet to see a house that was absolutely perfect that I didn't have to do some kind of prep to somewhere. Now, I filled this angle, I made it nice and square. Well, that's going to make it easier to tape once the angle's taped. It's going to make it nice and square, nice and easy. But anyway, that's a little bit about prepping. Now, come on inside real quick. You can see what we did here. We've gone through the whole house. This took about an hour. And you can see the earlier video I showed you where that crack was. We V'd that out, filled that up. We filled all the butt joints that had gaps. We filled all the gaps along the ceiling angles to make sure everything's square. You know, I tore all the loose paper off of this one earlier. I can put a little bit more here. And this house is ready to tape. So for an hour's worth of time, it's not. And here's another thing. Now this is dry. You see how it shrunk up inside there by itself? You see? I might even put a little bit more, but that shrunk up in that gap pretty good. That's the nice thing about this mud. If you're using regular easy sand does not shrink. But the bonus in this is it shrinks up nice. Even that big break, you know, you would expect that to be coming down, but it's filled up and it's flat. Now, this is what I do before we even start taping a house. So we'll start taping here now, and hopefully by, I don't know, 6-7 hours, we'll have this thing taped out. You guys have a good day.